Hello and happy Sunday. Today I am joined with just myself. Shane will not be joining this live. However, today I have a very exciting guest. Her name is Lamees Barnett. You might be familiar with her because we have had her on for previous trainings in the past. Now, Lamees is a fractional CMO, and she comes from a very paid media heavy background. So she is not on the creation part of the process, but she is on the I have the approved assets. What are we going to do with them now to make the client lots of money? And if I remember correctly, she has taken $400 million of ad spend and turned it into $4 billion, which is a massive accomplishment for a professional marketer. So I'm super excited to bring Lamees on. And of course, if you guys have any questions throughout the course of this training, please go ahead and ask. We really want this to be an open forum with, it's less of, again, like training session and more so Q&A focused. I myself have actually come with questions that I've been asked by my followers on platforms like TikTok and Twitter. And then I know Lamees also has come prepared with some pretty frequently asked questions as well. But again, if you're watching the live session, please don't be afraid to ask questions. Your questions are really what make these trainings so special and so helpful for any of the viewers who are watching the recording version, just because we are doing a live recording, so it will be archived on this YouTube channel. And without further ado, I would love to bring Lamees back on and give her the spotlight, just because she is a super helpful resource. And I know everyone in the UGC Social community has been super grateful to have her on in previous trainings. So without further ado, welcome back, Lamees.
Hi, thank you.
It's so nice to have you back.
Yeah, I'm excited. This one's going to be fun. I'm excited to see what questions people come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, like while we wait to have some questions sent over, which again, if you're watching this, no question is silly or stupid. If you're thinking it, it means other people are thinking it too. So it's just one of those things where ask the question, and I promise, like, this is a great space to ask these questions. And I know, Lamees, you kind of described it as like, like what are some questions that you have that you like want to ask your client, but you're also afraid to ask your client. So this is like the perfect opportunity for anyone that's watching this to ask those questions. And so funny enough, I actually came prepared with a few questions myself, like I said earlier, because I get comments on my TikToks or on Twitter. I'm also a part of like a few different group chats on Twitter through text, and questions come up, and it doesn't matter where you're at in your UGC journey. Everyone's always constantly learning and growing. I see Mark. Hey, Mark. It's nice to have you here. I'm actually going to start with one of the questions that I recently received, which was, let's see. So I had someone ask me, what is a good rebuttal when a client wants to ask for a lower rate for your videos?
What is a good rebuttal? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to send this in the chat too, just so you can see the question and I can put it up because I just copied and pasted it. So let's see, show.
I mean, see, that's where stats come into play. So like when you have numbers, it's easier to say, okay, well, my ads generate, like a 4 or 5x. So at that point, you start backing it up with data. But I think that a lot of clients don't realize how long it takes to actually create the video too. And so I like to kind of break it down. I think I had seen someone in your chat at one point, they were like, oh yeah, I have to make I think it was like 10 videos. I don't know what it was, but it would average out like $50 per video. And I'm like, well, it takes you an hour long to go ahead and do a video. Also, if there's no life expectancy on the video, we're like, well, when you get to use it, you get to go ahead and chop it up. And if you're offering variations, then that's what differentiates you between other content creators. So at that point, it's almost like if the client is big, like if it's a bigger client, and I actually started writing these notes down. So it's like, if it's a bigger client, I always like to check, and I think we had gone over this the last time, their Instagram account. So they have to have less than like 2,000 followers or whatever. And then I start to know, okay, that they're small. I go under their Facebook accounts, or not their Facebook ads library, and I see what ads are running. And then I'm just like, all right, cool. Like you kind of can see how many content creators they have or not. And then if it looks like it's a smaller account, I'd maybe take the lower rate, because they, like, if you want to at that point, right? but just knowing that, oh, they might be able to come back, but they're a smaller brand.
Yeah, because yeah, that is one of the things that it is important to keep top of mind. And even for me, like I know we've worked on some clients together where, like I have like adjusted maybe the scope of work based on the client's rate because it was still a worthy budget, but I just had to maybe tweak the scope of work just a little bit to still make it more worth like my while in the sense of my rates, which is, it's something where you can either do the rebuttal of pointing to your stats or, explaining the time that goes into the project. But then at the same time, like you said, it's like, or you can like adjust the scope of work to match the specific budget that they have. And something that I've done in the past too is really quantify the deliverable count. And I know you said this, it's like, it's not just one concept that they're paying, say for example, $750 for. When a client pays $750 for an asset of mine, it's like, well, you're getting alternate hooks to A/B test, but you're also getting 2 aspect ratios. So you're getting one to test on feed, but also one that can fit any 9:16 aspect. That could be for stories, for reels. It could be for TikTok. It could be for Snapchat. It could be for Pinterest. So there are a lot of use cases that those assets have. And so I think outside of the, the other options, like really being able to quantify the deliverables, because then all of a sudden it's not 750 a video. If they're getting 4 videos, I mean, 750 divided by 4, all of a sudden you're looking at assets that are only, $100 and something dollars or $200 and something dollars. And all of a sudden, that kind of like perspective shifts.
I mean, even if they're going to go ahead and bring it down, they want a lower rate. Honestly, at that point, and I've taken this as like a paid media expert. So like if I have a client who's going to come in at a lower rate, my normal minimum contract would be maybe a 3-month minimum contract. Now it's 6. So it's like, all right, cool. But that means I'm going to get the work out of it. And then for me, I know that, well, the work is already done. And, for content creators, the front half, right? You guys go through, you do all of the filming. So now you have all of the assets. All you have to do is put it together. And so go ahead and say, okay, cool, I can do a lower rate, but that means that you're going to have to space it out. Like for this lower rate, you have to do this for 3 months or 6 months or whatever the case is. But that's also just a really good upsell strategy. Like, again, I'm always going to go ahead and hit you guys with ways you guys can make more money too. So that would be a really good way of doing it.
Absolutely. And also while we're at it, I was just going to quickly just show you guys kind of just a preview of what my case studies look like in my portfolio, just for anyone that's watching this and is just like genuinely curious to just like get an idea. And like there's no, I don't think like right or wrong way to convey the value that you offer in your case studies. For me, it's like giving kind of this like, let me see if I can zoom in, this brief overview of the client. Let me zoom in a little bit if I can find it. Yeah. So like for me, it's like, obviously I've been doing this for much longer than, other people. But for me specifically, it's basically like, okay, well, I want to show the example of, a clothing brand, a wellness brand, a beauty brand, and then this is like another like weight loss brand. And so I basically just gave what was like a very brief overview of the client and then my most notable accomplishments. And so again, like there are many ways that you can do this. For me, it was giving a little bit of information, quantifying the accomplishments, and then screenshotting what was like a positive review from my point of contact at the company. So just as like a really quick example, it's like one of my longest standing clients at the time was Beta Brand. I had them for 3 years. I literally worked with them up until the company was acquired and they brought in literally an entirely new team. Therefore, it was time for me to part ways with the company just because these were like complete strangers and they were basically like completely changing the brand. And so I just said like at Beta Brand, Kelly worked directly with the founder and CEO, Chris Lindbland. She quickly took on directive leadership position in paid media strategy. She would do competitor and market research, pitch concepts, script writing, film UGC, and edit all ads. Her greatest accomplishment was that Beta Brand ended their longstanding 6-figure contract with Tube Science because every single one of the company's historical top performers were the concepts Kelly strategically created. Performance breakdown available upon request. And that's just because like they basically gave me a spreadsheet and it's just like showcases all of like not private information, but information that I know that they wouldn't want me just like publicizing on my website. But it's available upon request. And then the top 18 historical performing ads from 2021 were all Kelly's, receiving 85% of that year's ad spend, totaling almost $13 million, generating 45 plus million in revenue in less than 12 months, with an average click-through rate of 1.1, high of 2%, and average ROAS of 3.5, high of 6. And then I have what is Chris, the former founder of Beta Brand before the company was acquired, just saying like Kelly is a great creative thinker and operator. She brings ideas to life quickly and can rapidly spin up a network of collaborators to get projects completed. Can't recommend her enough for creative leadership roles. And so, you know, this is just a preview of like when you provide this to your client and they are, you know, maybe skeptical of your rates, being able to just showcase that alone just further affirms the value that you offer as that UGC creator or as that creative strategist.
Also, don't be afraid to just say no. Like I've taken an account where I'm like, I know they can afford my rates, but they were trying to just be cheap. And so I say no, and they come back because they're like, yeah, so we had someone else run our ads and they sucked. And I was like,
Yep.
okay, well, you know, if you're gonna go ahead and you want to pay like the littlest amount that you can pay, you're probably not gonna get the best quality. So
Yep.
it's like when you stand and you hold firm on it, a lot of the times people are like, and again, it depends on where the company is and how you approach it and what the rate is. But more times than not, when you do stand firm on it, they will come back depending on, you know, because especially if they have like 50,000 followers and you're like, okay, my rate's 750, and they're like, oh, we can't do that, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty and then you go on their Facebook ads library and they have like a shit ton of ads running. It's just like, I know damn well you guys pay way more than $750. But yeah.
Yes. Doing also a little bit of research too, really quickly before we close out this question is super
Yeah.
helpful in the sense of like when I start working with clients, I'll literally look up if they did like fundraising rounds. And if they've received like a series A or a series B, it's like, all right, I know you just got a good $65 million in that round. So you can afford my rates.
How do you find that?
So I'll just normally look up like the company. So I have a client that I've worked with forever. And when I first started working with them, I literally just looked up like client name and like fundraising or investment. And then a lot of them are public facing. So like series A, series B. And then by that point, you're like, okay, well, I know that you got like in the past 4 years, like $75 million. So
Okay, that's actually like that. Yeah, that's genius. I'm gonna start
yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Like it's super helpful just so you kind of know who you're working with. Because again, if it's like a smaller brand and you're like, oh, like I actually really like this product and I like the mission of this company, I'm gonna adjust the scope of work so I can make it worth my time. Like that's also totally an option. Like I do that with clients, but also like when I'm working with like the big brands with the big budgets, it's like I know how to adjust my conversation with them because I know how much money they actually have.
Yeah. Also, like the bigger brands don't know anything, which is
Yep.
really nice because like they don't care. It's almost yeah, they don't care. It just depends, but all right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So Betty Ann had asked that she was offered $200 to provide raw footage. What is fair? I asked for more as they were using for paid ads as well, but then I was ghosted. I think like coming from the brand side, it's nothing personal if a brand doesn't respond to you. There is unfortunately like a lot of moving parts. And part of the negotiation process is there is an opportunity in a bad way that like the person just might not be interested in furthering the conversation. And I know I've seen people online be like, well, I respond to all of my emails to my clients. And I just like don't think it's right that like this client that I was negotiating with like didn't respond. And it's like realistically, that person could be juggling, you know, hundreds of contacts and also just like other day-to-day tasks. So I'm sorry that they ghosted you. As far as like the raw footage goes, it really just depends on the scope of work to see like what feels fair to you personally. I've had clients who, you know, they've like offered me lower prices for raw footage, but what I do to make it worth my time is I've said, well, let's do it for a 3-month commitment, and let's do X amount of requests. So all of a sudden it's not $300 or $300 one-off request, it's $3,600 a month for 3 months. And all of a sudden it's worth my time because I'm like, cool, that's like a decent sum of money for like work that really isn't challenging for me. So if anything, like if you get a request like that, consider offering what is like a larger kind of like deliverable over time to make it more worth your time.
I kind of want to know what, and you don't have to share the brand, but even if you could share a similar brand that has like a similar Instagram handle. I'm not trying to put like work on you, but I'm now curious because it's like, depending on how big the brand is, $200, like I could tell you right now, if I'm asking for content, raw footage, depending on the brand that I'm working for, because more times than not, I'm the one that's trying to facilitate this for some of these brands. I don't know, I don't know if I pay $200. And I only say this because, or sorry, I'd pay more than $200. And I only say this because if I'm asking for raw footage and depending on like the voice or depending on the deliverables, right? I have to now send all of that to a video editor who's going to charge me a decent chunk of change. So I'm not asking you to do all of that work. I'm asking you just to film and then just send me the raw footage. So at that point, and it just depends because if you're used to spending $500 for someone to send you 2-3 deliverables, like a hook variation, whatever, one concept, $200 for just the raw footage makes sense because normally if I'm sending raw footage out to an editor, I'm paying around $200 to $300. So then it averages out the price. It was an agency doing work for a larger Christian app, including hook, body, CTAs. It doesn't sound like that. The Christian app, I'm not gonna lie, they don't make money like that.
Yeah.
So they probably wouldn't have.
Well, also
Yeah,
it sounds like it's more than you know what? No, I read it wrong. I just automatically in my mind translated raw footage to B-roll when really it's raw footage that could literally be script read. So yeah, I mean that's definitely like on the lower end, but also there's some creators who will do like a full-blown UGC concept and their rate is like 200. So depending on what you charge for UGC, does it technically justify the rate or budget? They did have a script. Okay, so they did have a script. Yeah, it's one of those things where like it's also relative, right? Because like if someone came to me offering that, for me, it's like, oh well, that's like way, way too low for me. But then there are other people too. Oh, I am so new. Yeah. So, in some cases, like it is justifiable. There's no like flat out yes or no, like, oh, like no, don't ever accept that. Because like if you are new and you are looking for experience, that's also quite all right. So that's just something to consider. And also if you only ever get paid $200 for the rest of the year, which keep in mind the year is ending, that means you're not going to be taxed on it because it's under $600. So you're actually keeping the full 200. So that's also something to consider, right? Is if it's a one-off project and you're only going to do work that's under $600, you're going to be tax-free on it. So that's also just something to consider. Lesson learned, absolutely. And there's nothing like wrong about it, right? Like it's like, let me tell you, I've learned so many lessons along my journey, and some were ones that I wish I didn't have to learn, but they just made me a better freelancer in general. So yes, absolutely lesson learned, and it's something just to keep in mind for next time. So Jessica said, oh, sorry.
You can also reach back out and just like confirm, because more times than not, if you just haven't like, hey, just wanted to go ahead and send an update or whatever, or you just check in or whatever the case is and see if they responded.
And also really quickly too, like to piggyback what Lamees said, you could follow up in a strategic way where you're like, hey, like I know it's Q4 and it's kind of crazy. I wasn't sure if there were like any remaining projects that you wanted to put out between now and the new year. After further reflection, like based on like the scope of work, like the $200 to $300 range is within range for me. So I'd love to further the conversation. Something like that.
Yeah. Tell them that because you're coming out towards Q4 that you're going to discount it. Like, oh, services are discounted. Like I would just create like a fake email that you were sending out to all your clients. Hey guys, this week only I'm doing so that you can go ahead. and I would just send it to them, but like, you know, BCC so they don't see it.
Yep.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Love that. Also, really quickly before I get to Jessica's comment, Nicole had said, wait, all projects under 600 are tax-free. I want to be clear. It's only if you ever do less than $600 of work for a client in 12 months. So like if you get a project that's $600 every week from a client, that's going to be taxed because it's more than $600 from that client. But if you did one project for a client in the entire year that was $400, you're not going to be taxed for it because it's under $600. Jessica said, I know brands spending $150,000 a month on ads, but want to pay $3,000 for creative strategy or $150 per video for ads. Even after I send case studies, I feel like they don't want to pay higher rates.
Okay. I love this question. This is great. Okay. So I get it. I totally get it. There are clients that I've taken on, right, where they come in and we have like an 11, like 15 MER, meaning that their media efficiency ratio, so just like their ROAS, the 5 times the amount of money, all their paid media makes them 11, 12 times the amount of money they're spending. Now, it doesn't matter because even if I didn't run paid ads, they would still be doing just as good. So they didn't necessarily need me. They don't need new videos. They don't need new creatives because it's like, oh God, I had a client who said, they're like, oh yeah, it's like, wow, I don't know, shooting fish in a bucket or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just like this whole thing where it depends on the client. So I understand spending $150,000 on ads. People are like, wait, you should know. But there's a couple of things that you have to take into consideration. One, profit margins. So it's like if they have a product that they're spending 150 on, but they're only making, you know, they're breaking even, they're having like a 2x, and they probably don't actually have the funds to spend you. But their LTV is probably going in there. Because I've also been around clients where they like, I get on their account and I'm like, how the hell did you guys just spend $600,000 over the last few months? And you guys weren't even going towards like conversions or this or that, right? So it depends. Aside from that, it definitely would be like, we don't know what the CPA is. We don't know what all of it is. Paying 150 for video ads though, like full on video ads, like that's super cheap. Like that doesn't make any sense. Also, the way that I'm looking at it is if you are okay with spending $150,000 on ads every fucking month, you could at least pay $500 to set like 500 to 1,000, depending on the influencer. If you're going to do whitelisting, how many deliverables are there? Like it makes sense. And sometimes the media buyer isn't there to just kind of like rationalize it, because like I'll ask the dumb rhetorical questions like, so you don't want to pay Kelly her, you know, just $500 video concept, but we can go ahead and you gave me a $50,000 budget on Facebook and we're only doing a 1x and I need better creatives because it's not working, but her videos would give us at least a minimum of 3.5x. You know, it's like it's those things where you're like, how does this make sense? Like,
Yes.
and sometimes you could probably say that on a call too, you know, and just be like, yeah, you know, some clients find out, you know, they think that the rates are a bit too high. And then after a while, you know, they start to continue to spend money on their ads that aren't working, but my ads end up working and you need a new refresh of creatives.
Yeah.
So my prices are what they are. But yeah.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
yeah, they're just like it's just like, really? Like how does this, and I've said that before, specifically with your videos too, Kelly, where I'm like, I'm confused. Like you gave me a budget, like, and I've had it where, you know, I was like, you gave me a $50,000 budget. Fine. Fuck it. I don't care. Pretend I just spent it on ads. I send it to Kelly. I don't care. Give her the money she's asking for. Like it just make it make sense. So
Yeah.
I think once you start pulling it around, they're like, oh, well. And I guess my other question is, did they tell you that they were spending $150,000 on ads?
Yeah, I'm curious, Jessica, if they told you
Yeah.
they were spending $150,000 on ads.
Because for them to just tell you and then be all like, oh, by the way, we can't pay you. No.
Yep.
It's no.
Honestly, it's also one of those things too. Oh, yes, to $250,000. Oh, wow. So it's
Is
more
this
too.
okay? Is it a subscription? You don't have to share the actual brand, but can you share like a similar brand?
Yeah, I'd be curious because yeah, maybe their profit margin isn't great or
It has to be terrible. I mean, this has to be awful. 150?
yeah, that's pretty wild. Also, it's just like sometimes you'll talk to a client and you just feel like you're talking to a wall. For example, last summer I got approached by a beauty tech company and they literally told me to my face during the interview that they do 10 million in revenue a month. So when I quoted them at the time, I think I had said it would have been the head of creative. So I quoted them, it was like 200,000 plus like a bonus structure of like 20% quarterly or something like that based on like my direct impact on the account. And at the time they were looking to do, I think it was like they were like no, our budget's 160, but you'll get a bonus structure of like 30% or something. And it just like, anyways, all this goes to say is it's just like, you just told me how much money you make. And even though it's not profit, it's like, you have a very cheap product. It's cheaply made. You can afford me. You're looking to scale the account and they still are like, nope, we don't want to spend it. It's just like sometimes there will be clients that it doesn't matter rhyme or reason. You will not actually like get to them. But even still, like sometimes if you can try based on the conversation, you can talk to them. But some clients are just going to be stubborn and they're just not going to change their way.
It's it's so much. Okay, so like you said it was a fitness app for a huge influencer, and I'm like, I could see why someone would say, okay, 150. Because if they're an influencer themselves and they know that they can get other people to do it for a less cost, like a lesser cost, and they're going to
Yeah.
totally do it. Especially if they're the ones that are writing out the script. Okay, so when I worked at an agency, I remember we needed to do a casting call. This is before COVID. I did one casting call. It was the first one to ever like try to pull in a casting call. Or maybe it was the second, because the first, I don't remember. Anyways, I only say this because if there was someone before me, it was only like 5 or 10 people that showed up to the casting call. I did it, and I had about 80 people show up to the casting call at the first office that they had that was like really, really fucking tiny. And in Santa Monica. So like it was awful to get there. Parking was a bitch. Like it was terrible. Okay.
Wow.
$100. This was $100 for a full day rate. So this means that you have to live in the LA area. You have to come to Santa Monica. You have to be there. I had people waiting over an hour to see me. I was like, this is insane. Like, this is absolutely insane. So then I transitioned it. Well, no, I didn't have, I think the first time I did it, it was like maybe like 30, 40 people. The second time that was like 90, I think it was $150 day rate. Like, and it was a $50 difference. That was just like a whole shift. Now, when COVID happened and when COVID happened and COVID shifted, what made it really bad and good, right, for everyone is that now people are more okay, like comfortable sending products to their home, getting the UGC, right, getting all of that stuff. Cool. But it also means that there are more people that are in that pool of $150. So now all I have to do is put in an LA casting for whatever for script reads. And I'm still getting, at this point, the last time I have done it just for UGC, I had over 500 applicants.
Wow.
500 for $150.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's kind of like when you're in this going back and forth, sometimes these fitness apps, they're not going to do it. They're just never going to go ahead and reach out to you because especially if they know creatives. Like Kelly could probably get away with doing a fitness app and then just doing a full out casting call for $100 and then giving the script because Kelly can go back and cut it and pull exactly what she needs and it'll be a fraction of the process. All she needs is just different faces.
Yep.
So once we come to this realization of like, oh, okay, this is what they need, it might not be bad, like a bad idea for you guys to have like here's a raw footage package. You get this, no. And that's it. Just to go ahead and push it out, but just to know that, hey, I don't want to take anything under because can I get someone that's going to be cheaper? Yeah. If I'm handing you a script, absolutely. That means I don't really care what you do. Just read the script. I hope you get like part of it right because I'm going to chop it up anyways. Yeah. Yeah. So it kind of depends on who's running it and what resources they have. Because again,
Yeah.
it's like, if it was like Kelly and Shane running a business, well, you guys do, like you could co-create,
Yeah.
like just like an e-commerce, right? You guys can go through and Kelly can go on UGC Social. Hey, I'm looking for content creators. Like here's this flat rate. No, I need like a 30-second raw video footage. And now
Yep.
she knows that Shane is like a video editor whiz and can go just send that shit to him and he'll go ahead and do it. And that's it. Right. So it's just
Yep.
like, we have to also understand what their capabilities are as well on the back end. And sometimes
Yep.
these big brands won't charge you because they don't care. That sounds
Yep.
really messed up, but
It's just like,
they
it's
don't.
better to understand like the train of thought behind the scenes than to not. And like, yeah, like ultimately, sometimes there are brands that are like, we want quantity over quality. And then there are other brands where, like, for me, when I'm hiring creators, budget depending, when it's like a budget that I can actually afford, like quality creators, I am going to go for quality over quantity. But then I have other clients, like an agency I work with, where like they're like $200, nothing more. It is a script read, and like I swear to God, there's only 7 lines, so like it's a very low lift project. But I had to tell them right off the bat, like, if you refuse to budge at 200 and your clients are going to want perpetual ownership for legal liability, it's going to be slimmer pickings. Will I have a harder time finding creators? Yes. Will I not be able to find creators? No, they do exist. But like the quality creators are going to be harder to secure. Therefore, you cannot expect the world from a $200 budget. But if we are wanting to invest more into these creators, these quality creators, then obviously there's going to be a higher quality pool to pull from.
Like, I will purposely go towards, okay, so right now I'm in the process where I'm not taking on accounts that aren't going to get good creative, solid creatives that I can take a step back on. I'm not doing that. Now, before, if I do, or if someone really does pull out my heartstrings and I just really like the brand for some reason, and normally it's like I really like the brand, I just want the product. Because I've done that before. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Sure. I just really want this. No. Like I just, who cares? Like I just,
Yep.
yeah, right. So at that point, it's like I would take them. However, not like I don't take those clients anymore, but I'm also not like, I don't have time to sit here and write out a script and do all of this extra shit. So
Yep.
like if a client wants to go ahead and take that all over, great, go ahead, charge whatever you want to charge. I don't care. I'll help you do the casting call. I don't care. But if you want me on there to give like feedback and shit, no, I'm going to find someone that actually has a creative strategist like background, like that knows how to do it, because I don't have time to go back and forth through that shit. It's the same thing with people hiring me. You could hire someone that's a bit greener, they're probably not going to do it right. Hey, that's totally fine. I can come in, I can do it, and I can explain to you all of it. So it's just, it depends on like how much, you want to go ahead and do. And when I was in grad school, one of my grad professors, he told me, like, one of the smartest things, he goes, don't go cheap on the one thing that you're like, whatever your weakest point is, don't go cheap on that. And it made a lot of sense, because he goes, think about it, like you go cheap on an accountant and all of a sudden they're like skimming you, like you don't know how to do it. Pay them, make sure you pay them well so that you can trust them, right? And then they're going to make sure that they have your back every step of the way. Because they feel like it's but don't sit over here and know that you suck at accounting and then get like a really shitty cheap accountant, because like you can't trust them. So it's just same thing with a content creator. It's your time too. And one of your questions, when someone has asked, what was it? So I'm just gonna go back to.
No, you're good.
I think Betty had asked. It was like the first question.
Was it the raw
someone asked about a rebuttal? No, sorry. Someone asked about a rebuttal.
Oh yes.
So it's like, you tell them that you're like, well, I'm experienced. So you come to me, I know what works, I know what doesn't work. This process has been pushed out and tested. It works. This is why people come to me. This is why my rate is my rate. You can absolutely go to a different content creator. They might not necessarily have the same qualifications. I'm sure you'll get great work. I'm just not sure if it's going to go ahead and turn. Like, that's it. Like, it's going to turn a profit. That's all. Exactly. It's like, I've been doing this for years. I know it works. So you're not just paying for creatives, you're paying for my expertise.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Actually, I have another sorry.
That's funny, because that's how I saw you. I'm like, you're not paying for the video, you're paying because her videos work and she knows what she's doing. And so when a client when a client comes to me and they're like, I have no idea where to even start. Don't ask me, ask her. Like, get
Yes.
her to do it. Like, I don't have time for this shit. You hired me to pay for paid ads. That's it. I can go ahead and
Yes.
put you in touch. There's a little thing on my contract that states specifically, I am not a content creator. I will refer you. And the link goes directly to Kelly. So it's just like,
Yes. Well, and also when you think about it, like if a client just saw like a creator's name and their rate, like if they saw like a creator who is like, I'll just say like $30 an hour, because I'm giving like an example of my hourly rate as like strategy and video editing, say like 30 versus 150, someone would be like, what the heck? Like, why would I pay $150 for this Kelly chick? Like, what does she even do? But it's like, when you explain and communicate that, it's like, well, I actually have the background of a professional direct response video editor. I create high converting ads and have for some of the most well-known and well-respected agencies in the country. And also am a creative strategist by trade, former director of creative strategy at a top D2C brand, former creative director at a company that was spending $3 million a month on Facebook alone, and a UGC creator leveraging all these best practices and organic social nuances. All of a sudden, the hourly rate is justified. But it is my rate for everyone? No. There are going to be people who will scoff at it and be like, oh, I can get someone for cheaper. And it's like, sure, but will they convert? We'll talk about that later.
actually, they don't. More times than not, it does not work. Like,
Yep.
it doesn't work.
So this was a question I received in a group chat, and I thought it would be really cool to talk about, because I know that we have talked about this previously on trainings, but it's still such a it's asked all the time is what I'm trying to say. And so I got this in a chat, basically like, as a UGC creator, what KPIs should I be asking for my portfolio? And then also in that same breath, like, as a creative, what are the KPIs you're asking for? And as a business, like, what does the business care about?
So the business is going to care about their overall MER. It also depends on like I had this, it depends. Honestly, it just depends on who their marketing person is. But what they should, because there's, and this kind of is what messes up content creators too. Sometimes it could be like a really bad like media buyer on the team, or
Yep.
like media, or like if they're marketing person. Like there is one client, or one client that I used to have, their marketing person, he was awful. Has no idea about paid media at all. And so like when he goes through content creators and he says, oh, this works, this doesn't work, no, it's almost like he's looking at frequency, or like, just things that just don't actually matter, like engagement rate. We don't care. I want to know if it makes sense. You could have the shittiest engagement rate in the world, but you have a 5x ROAS and I put, $10,000 spend towards it. Who cares about the frequency? Like, is it making you money? Yes, it's making you money. So more times than not, what you want to do is, I would always say MER is going to be the one that the business is going to look for. That's like the main one. And let me just pull my notes, because I know I have these, because I go through these all the time, because this is like one of the most common questions. So they're going to ask for MER. That's going to be like or ROAS is going to be something that the business is going to look at for specifically the creative, what your specific ROAS is. So as the brand, I'm going to go ahead and see, okay, well, is my brand doing great? Perfect. So we're going to use Rootly as an example. So Rootly is doing great. I know that it's doing great. We're, fine. Their MER, so media efficiency ratio. So after I spend money on TikTok, after I spend money on Facebook, after I spend money on Klaviyo, SMS marketing, all that shit, right? So paid media, 11. So I now know that the business overall is profitable. Your specific ad for Rootly would be 4 or 5x. Okay, great. So now I know that your specific content is great, and it's profitable. Then I'm going to look at click-through rate. Now this is going to be something that's going to be more or less for the content creator, because like I will look at it as a media buyer, because I want to make sure that people are clicking on the site and where people might be dropping off. So that's perfect, but it's not going to be like the main thing. Ad spend. And I think we've talked about this, where a lot of clients aren't going to go ahead and give you your ad spend, but they'll give you an ad spend range. And you want to know that, because it's going to be helpful for you to know how much people are actually spending on your ads, right? Like you just need some type of ballpark so that when you say, oh, I'm getting a 3, 4, 5x, people are like, okay, cool, but this has been tested by a significant amount of budget, because it doesn't mean
Yeah.
shit if it was $100 and you got like
Yes.
a 3, 4x, because that could mean that
Yeah.
you got one purchase and that's it. So it's like,
Yeah. It matters if it's like it's received 300,000 or like literally my top 2 ads for that one client beta brand, like in the first, it was like 8 months of running for that year, received over $12 million in ad spend.
wow, yeah, see? So then the other thing is the customer lifetime value is what the business is going to look for. And that's going to be really, well, that's going to actually be valuable for both if both people can like understand the significance of it. So the customer lifetime value Rootly is a subscription base. So at that point, it's like to go ahead and acquire one customer. So customer A, great, cool. You get them. How long do they stay? So
Yep.
if you're paying $50 a month and on average people are staying 6 months, then you're making whatever that math is, which I know is what 330. What anyways, is it like 3,000, right?
Yeah.
So now you're making, yeah. So now you're making 3,000 off that one client every month, right? And
Yep.
so it's just like, okay, cool. So it's a little harder, especially if you're doing something for a subscription box, because at that point, or a subscription plan or whatever, because at that point, your CPA doesn't really mean anything if you know that you can acquire a customer at $75, but you're probably going to get $3,000 out of them anyways after 6 months. So at that point, sometimes your ROAS for a subscription base is going to be different. And I say this because someone had put like this fitness app, so it's just like that's a subscription base.
Totally.
Cost per click, like, okay, I think that's better for like your percentage is going to be better for your overall percentages is going to actually be better for creatives when you're looking at anything, because you want the percentage of anything. So even though ROAS doesn't sound like a percentage, it's actually a percentage, but whatever. So you can get like a 4% a conversion rate or whatever that is. So take those specific rates, because it's going to be a bit more easier to explain to your clients than the $1.23 click-through rate, because they're going to be like, what the fuck does that mean? Or like,
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. So prioritizing conversion rate.
well, prioritizing conversion rates, but the percentages, right? So like, even if you say like, hey, I do $1.20 a cost per click, no one's gonna like, that doesn't make sense, because it's just like, it makes more sense if you find out how much you've spent on it, because now you're telling me it's 2%. So it doesn't matter how much money they might have spent on it, you're getting a 2% click-through rate or
Yep.
conversion rate or whatever that case is. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Also for creatives outside of click-through rate, I normally also say to feature view-through rate, just so then the client can also get an idea, like if it's like, oh, like not only was your hook scroll stopping, but the like so not only was it scroll stopping from a thumb stop rate, but also they watched the ad long enough to take in enough information for like a decent view-through rate, and then went into a, whatever good click-through rate it was. And then obviously ROAS.
I'm actually gonna, yeah, your view through rate. Because you can also do your, I'm trying to pull it up right now. You can do the video percentage. So
Yes.
25 up to like the 100. You can do the 3-second video mark.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different things that you can pull to at least showcase to your clients, like, hey, this is great. But the biggest thing that they should do is what their MER is, honestly. Like, it just does not make any
Yeah.
sense to me when a client's like, oh, okay, well, paid ads, da, da, da. Like, the power of paid ads and good creatives. I can take an account that is, not even breaking even. So their MER could be at like a 2x. So that means that their like overall company ROI or ROAS or whatever, right? Is going to be like, super low. But then as soon as I start putting money towards paid ads, even though paid ads said it only generated $5,000 in revenue, but their thing shows 25,000. But the months before they were running paid ads, they could barely hit 10K. Right. So it's just like you can start to see where everything starts to balance out as well.
Exactly. So I see we got a question. It says, how do you balance giving? Oh, wait, am I jumping ahead? Were there any others you wanted to talk about?
No, I'm
Trying
trying
to
to get
check
into
mine.
my Facebook ads. You're fine. I'm like, wait, what was the other metric?
Okay, so how do you balance giving favors and having a great business relationship with a client for longevity? I have a retainer client that I've been working with for close to a year. They pay they pay my rate with no problem, and they also gave me a raise. I've given them additional creative photos at no charge just to show my appreciation. Recently, they made some requests that I've done for free before, and this time I sent a fee. I'm not sure they are pleased about it. Interesting.
Don't do favors.
Yeah, it just
No, do a favor, but then send an invoice that it's discounted so they know how much it is so that the next time
yeah,
they're ready to pay for it. But yeah.
I've done that. Now that I think about it, the times where I've like cuz like, there are times where I'm kind of like reading the room as far as like, like they've been so appreciative of me, we've got along so well. I just want to like do something and just like, whatever it is. Like I've had a client where they were like, okay, like we can't go over our $900 budget, so just like let us know if we like surpass that marker. And, in the invoice, I basically had said like $900 did go over by X amount, but I'm comping it this time just because it was more so just like I'll say like a political play. Like it was like not a big deal on my end, but I just wanted them to be like, oh wow, like she didn't charge us. And so more so for strengthening the relationship, right? And so I had comped it and they know my hourly rate. So it's like, comped an hour in like 20 minutes or something. And it's like, oh wow, like we just saved like 130 time plus half of 130, whatever. But yeah, I would say like making sure to communicate that it is like a comped or discounted like bonus could definitely help. But also, I mean, if they've been paying your rate and you've even gotten a raise, I guess I just wonder if they really aren't pleased. Like what I guess now I'm wondering is, did they say something that kind of insinuated that they're shocked that they were charged for it? That would be kind of like my follow-up question. But definitely for me over the years, my longest standing clients, I've always made sure to work with them in a way that they still respect me, my rates, and the value that I offer, but also trying to make their lives easier and trying not to complicate things. And I feel like that's what's really helped foster these long relationships. Like when I first started working with Beta Brand back in like 2020, it was like, like I knew in my head that they had money, that they could, it could be a very fruitful relationship. And so from the very, very beginning, I made sure to, when I worked with them, try to put up less walls, less barriers to get a project started and completed, so long as they were paying my rate. And I only say that just because, there is a gray area, but if you're a creator who is maybe a little bit more challenging to work with, like, for example, like I've worked with some creators where like in the back of my head, I'm like, I can never work with this creator again because I spent 2 weeks of my time just emailing, trying to get this project started. And it's just like, I don't have time for that. I'm getting paid by the hour for this, but I don't have time for this. And so it's
Throw
just
money
more
at
so
it.
like, yeah, picking and choosing your battles. But it sounds like as far as this situation goes, again, like I know we don't have the full context, but it sounds like you still have like a pretty strong relationship with them. And I would just genuinely be curious, like what made you feel that they aren't pleased about the recent charge?
Like, because the other thing too is like, one, I'm kind of interested in, so you don't have to obviously share, like how much was that increase and did they have an expectation when they sent you that increase? Like, did it mean that their scope of work was going to increase? Did they send you the raise because they felt like, oh, well, she's doing free work, we probably, since we keep asking for it and we want to continue to ask for it, right? So maybe they just weren't clear on that, whatever. That's still not your problem, because if they haven't shifted the scope of work at that point, um, but what you could do too is follow up with hey, so here is our original contract, here's the price, this is what's underneath. and I've been updating my rate sheet. Here's the rate sheet for anything additional outside of that. So then it's not
Mhm.
even like something that's specific towards them. It's just an overall thing. But I have had clients too where they've like hired me and they will, God, it was awful. He like up to my rate because he's like, oh, well, we want more time, but like had already been like calling my personal cell phone, like the first call, like I'd still be in bed and he'd call.
Oof.
I'm just like, no, like, dude, my parents aren't even like that. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so at that point, it was just like, it just depends. And I think it was like more call time. So like when he increased the rates and when I increased my rates, I'm like, yeah, nah, this covers that. It doesn't cover anything more. But as soon as I had increased, it was like, hey, so can you start running Amazon? And I'm like, no, that's not in our scope. Like, if you want, here's my rates for additional. So it might be worth just making sure that they know what is in their initial contract and then adding on like an add-on option, because that is what's on my contracts now too. It's like, hey, if you like, this is what you've paid for, and then I literally have like a clear on, added on, like optional, and on there it has like video concepts, like copywriters, and I had asked Kelly for her rates a long time ago, so it just says video like content creator, and then it has her rate. It doesn't say anything about who it is. And then as soon as they ask for a referral, like everything is linked at that point. So they can go
Mhm.
straight to her. So it's not a surprise, but it's also like, I don't do this. This isn't in our scope. So if I do, like, I've done a video for a client where I'm their paid media manager. I'm not a content creator. So
Mhm.
I did it as a favor. Now, if they start asking for it, then I can go ahead and start charging them, because it's also on my contract that it is like, whatever the case is for them, right? So $400, $500, $600, like there it is. So now they know it's being comped.
Absolutely. And so this was the follow-up message. I gave some free work at my own will because I actually love working with them. There was a 15% raise. They have not responded to my email after I sent the rate. So rate as in sent the invoice? And if so, when did you send it? Just out of curiosity. Because also, I will say it's Q4. So if people are harder to get a hold of, leading up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday is really not all that like I would say like uncommon. Just because for me, I just know the next like basically ever since November 1st, it's like I'm late for everything now.
I tell clients too, it's just like, if you're gonna do free work, I just tell them, hey, so normally this is like a charge or whatever. Like even after, you could always say, hey, so I actually had sent this over for free because I've been wanting it to test it to see how it works, so that I can go ahead and properly rate it. So this isn't like a free service, like I wanted to test it and I love working with you guys, so I sent it over. So at that point, like that's how I would try to balance it out,
Mm.
because they're always going to ask, and then when it comes to paying, like it's almost like, you could always follow up with a rate sheet, or just like let them know their rates, and then I would follow back up and be all like, hey, so my planned shoot date is no. And if you think that they'll just go ahead and pay your invoice with that rate, then just go ahead and send them the invoice with the rate, because they got the service. But that's, I don't know how good your relationship is with them, because
Yeah. Yeah, because like for some clients, like one of my longer standing clients, like I can invoice them, like they know my hourly rate, they know what I normally quote them for UGC. And so like sometimes they'll even say, like, can you give us an estimate? And like when we go over, I let them know, like, hey, just so you know, like I've gone over. They're like, oh yeah, it's fine. But then there are other clients who are like, can you please like let me know how much we went over? I think like communication is honestly just like the biggest part, where it's just like, yeah, just like maybe just communicate with them. Also, if you haven't heard back from them in a minute, like obviously like you can follow up with them too, and just like something even simple, like I know it's Q4 and crazy, I just want to make sure you guys got my email. I'm available to support you, keep me posted, excited for my next project or something like that.
you know it's been extremely helpful and just so great when it comes to like me with clients with justifying their costs, their rates, and whatever, has honestly been the lander, like just the one page, like landing page. Like, oh my gosh, like if they have it with their, like, just the videos on there, it takes out so much of the work. And then people can start to see, oh, this is what they produce. And it's not just for like me, it's for these other accounts. So the more that you start to put on there, the more videos that they see, the more that they're going to realize, yeah, she's not going to do free work. Why? When you have
Yeah.
all of these things to show for it. And so I do think that that's such a huge shift. And even just explaining that to someone like, hey, I'm building a landing page, and just even doing it ahead of time, like, hey, I'm doing a landing page. Like I'm trying to build, like videos for my portfolio or whatever. So I wanted to go ahead and send you additional creatives, and then all of a sudden they see these creatives on your website with like your feed. So now it's just like pick a struggle. Like you have it, like, yeah, I've already shown it to you. I did it for free, so I could have it on my website. This isn't like a forever thing.
Ooh,
Also,
yeah, that's a good point.
pushing out complimentary one-time things for anything that you're launching is very, like, that's very normal in this industry. Like it's very normal because you need to test something anyways. Facebook does it when it comes to ads. Whenever they come out, and most people don't, I don't know why. I guess most people don't realize this. When Facebook comes out with like a new
feature
placement. Feature like placement, or feature like new reels or something, or like they just did Advantage Plus, right? So it's like whenever they do it, they'll actually call bigger brands, or like sometimes just depends on, I don't know how they pick, but like a lot of the times a brand will be there, and all of a sudden I'll get like a call and they'll be like, hey, so we'll give you $5,000 if you guys test out like Facebook Shops. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But like they're not going to give me $5,000 in 2 months, in 6 months down the line, when everyone else has already tested it out and they know it works. So it's like, so there's nothing wrong for you to offer that within your services. It's just, it is about transparent. And even if you're not transparent about it in the front, like, end, that's okay. Cause you still can go ahead and be about it, like towards the back, like at the end of it, and just be like, hey, because they are business owners, and I'm not going to lie, they're going to ask you questions because they know you're probably not going to say like no, and you're just going to do it. Especially if they raised your rates, and they're going to be like, nah, we just raised the rates because if we decide not to work with them, this is a retainer client. Like they do think like this. Some of them are assholes, and they do say these things. Like these are conversations that I can't tell you how many times I've heard where I'm like, you guys are a piece of shit. So you just have to really try, because it's like the way that they have said it has just been so rude. And it's almost like you don't realize that this is their way of living. So like you just to expect it, and then to like pull a whole contract. Also, why are you pulling a contract from someone who their content works? Right. So it's like, these are the conversations that are just going on behind the scenes. So like they're going to ask you stupid questions, come back more times than not. If you come back and you're like, hey, even if they don't respond, there's a whole new level of respect. They're like, damn, we can't get that one over on her. But like, I had one client who would not pay after the work was already done, and they already got the work. The work was already advertised, published, and everything. And they go, well, they want to get paid, so I bet you they'll take a lower rate. And I'm like, no, there's no way, because like they are already given shit, like everything up. And of course, like that person got on the call and they were like, no, this was on the rate you pay you, and they were able to justify it. And then when I got on the call with the client after, I said, why did you go through all that if it was already on the sheet? His response was, I just want to see, sometimes you never know, those go down. Like I'm going to pay them, but like if they let me go down. So it's a game to them. Like they're good at business, and this is part of the business tactic. And if they don't want to pay just because, and they have the budget, they won't do it.
Gosh. So. Yeah, it really depends on the person you're talking to, because it's like some people are just like going to be a stick in the mud, and then there are other people who like see and understand the value of whoever they're hiring. And it's kind of this like game of roulette. I mean, thankfully, I feel like I don't know, for me personally, I definitely dealt with more of the BS clients earlier on. And I feel like now, since they're mostly through referrals, it's really hard for like those people to try to pull a fast one on me, because it's like, well, like Lamees referred me to you, so I'm not going to like try to start some like bullshit. But like if it's someone that finds me on, like, I'm not on Fiverr, but if they like found me on Fiverr, like sure, they'll probably try to be like, oh, well, can you do this for $50? So yeah, it's I don't know, it's kind of a frustration. It's one of the bigger frustrations as a creative contractor, but also like as a freelancer in general, right? Because like I know you've dealt with this too, Lamees, and it's yeah, it's just it's a certain type of person, and unfortunately they exist. But for every like really shitty client, there are also like really incredible clients who will value the value you offer as that contractor.
Also,
Um,
shitty clients that'll refer you to amazing clients. Because I had a terrible fucking client, like,
that's
and I say awful, like they owe me a couple grand, like they never pay, like it's just yeah. So like, but referred me to absolutely incredible people, and they just you could tell that they like know that their contact was like really shitty, and they're like, I'm not like them. I swear, you don't even have to tell them that they didn't pay their contract. They just know. Yeah, they've referred me to a couple of freelancers who haven't been too happy working with them in the past,
oh my
but they're
gosh.
great freelancers. So yeah, it's just yeah.
Oh
Oh, I see
God.
another question.
Yes, Jessica had asked, what KPIs do you ask for when you're working as a strategist creator manager when there are several team members? I mainly hire creators, write scripts, find hooks, and review creatives. I feel like it would be the same thing like as far as like a UGC creator, right? Because it's like you want to like communicate. Like for me, for example, like I wrote a script for my sister and she filmed and edited the concept. And that concept, that's the one at 310 Lamees that's still running today. I don't know how much money it's received. It's got to have received over 2 million by now, but it's still being run, you know, a year and whatever later. And as the person who strategized the concept, I write, you know, the KPIs that I did get back at the time, which were like, I did thumb stop just to show like I know how to create scroll stopping hooks. I did view through rate because I wanted to be able to showcase that the scripts that I write are not just I would say like trick hooks, like they're not clickbaity. They actually hold weight and like carry the viewer through the narrative to a point where they're able to then click the link and go to the landing page. And then of course, like reflecting how profitable your creatives are from a ROAS perspective. Those are the ones that I'm normally paying close attention to, whether I'm the UGC creator or the person that is strategizing and doing the creative strategy.
Yeah, it's gonna be the same. I completely agree. There's nothing for me to like. You're gonna want to ask the same thing because like whatever makes them look good is going to like those are the main metrics. Plus, there's only so many metrics to choose from, you know.
Yep.
But the ones that like I always want to focus on are the ones that are gonna go ahead and make someone money. Like I want to know how much
Mhm.
money you're making us. Like, is it effective? Where people are dropping off so that I can turn this into a more effective creative if needed. Also, I'm now
Absolutely.
kind of curious, whatever your 310 one is, maybe you can message me a bit more information about later because I still have access to the account. So now I just kind of want to know how that
Yeah,
concept is doing.
I'm I I'll have to see if Garrett still works there. Do you still have access?
I do. I do. I still have
Okay,
access.
because I
And
want to
I
just
get
get
their messages all the
information.
time.
Oh, how funny. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. Let's see. Jessica
Oh,
said, thank you. That's what I was thinking. Outside of that, if anyone has any other questions, we're happy to answer them. We are at the 60-minute marker, but we can obviously talk for a little bit longer. What were you going to say, Lamees?
Is it
It's the one
the
that's whitelisting
seed
under Carrie.
too? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great engagement. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, hold on.
Yeah. It's kind of like also like kind of like a level of controversial. Like a lot of the comments like really stir up like I don't know, they're just like what doctor tests you for blah 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 and it's like you have to go to the doctor to get blood work. But
Yeah,
yeah, so
right.
it's like kind of controversial. So um
The, the last 7 days, they've spent $60,000 on that ad,
wow. And
and I'm
that's
going to tell you what
a
they wrote
year
here.
and 3-4 months after launch. So for Carrie, we did do a contract where it's like for as long as they're whitelisting the ad, she gets paid $1,000 a month, and they pay it every
And
month.
and because there is a subscription base, it means that the ROAS can be a bit lower than normal because it's normally pushing for acquisition, so acquiring new customers. So
Mm,
I'm saying that
yep.
before I say what her ROAS is because her
Oh
ROAS is
yeah.
actually really, really good. with this being a subscription model. So I can see why they would continue to spend a ton of money. So it's
How interesting.
1.63. It's a
Wow, I'm
1.6.
actually kind
So
of
it's a little, yeah,
impressed. 1.63?
yeah, 1.63.
Wow.
Yeah, because if you're getting, so there's 3,444 purchases there. Now, if this
How many?
is 3,044 purchases over the last 7 days. So if it is, how much is that subscription? 9 the first month, and then how much is
Yeah,
it
it's
after?
like the first month is like $9. So it's meant to be like
Okay,
the intro offer, and then obviously like the LTV of the customer is more promising, and they do the like upsell of like the buy one get one 50% off, which is like a higher price SKU.
so for ships and giggles, let's just say it's $25, right? And you can keep someone on there for at least 3 months. I think their LTV that we talked about was like maybe like 6 months or a year or somewhere around there, like
Yeah, they've
maybe
got
like
a pretty good
2 months.
LTV, to be honest.
Yeah. But let's just say it's $25 and it's 3 months. So that means that she's bringing in $76,000 every month with this just 7 day spend. So
Wow.
1.6, fine. So that's one. So if I multiply that by three, that's $228,000. $228,000 that she's bringing in. So that ROAS is great because in the grand scheme of things, I'm like, wait, hold on. People are staying. It's a subscription model.
Yep.
Great. So,
Yep.
man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll have to reach back out to you for some of those stats because I want to update my portfolio with that as the like creative like person who is leading the strategy. And then for Carrie, she obviously also has it featured because she did the filming and she did the editing. So it was a really cool tag team. So Betty Ann asked, there seems to be a lot of younger creators out there. So wondering if there's a platform for older creators. I'm 56, but I look much younger, but not sure how to market myself. So we need creators who are 50 plus years old. If there is like an
Yes.
absolute dire need, it's having creators that are not just between ages like 20 and 35. Right now, there are so many creators in that age range, and you can obviously still be successful as a creator who is between the age range of 20 and 35, 20 and 40. It's just that the older
More so.
that the age goes up, the more like the harder it is to find a creator. So honestly, you should be wearing your age and your generation like a badge. You need to be literally having your age or generation in your literal handle or like title of every single one of your social pages on your portfolio. Because like when you think about it, not every
You're just
brand
putting
is
50 plus.
created. Exactly. Yes. Not every
Yeah.
creator, I mean, not every brand created, it has a target demo of ages 20 to 35. Some brands literally have a target customer who is 50 or 60 years old. I mean, like there are like just I know this is like a very basic example, but there are menopause like products out there that like obviously I wouldn't be able to market because I'm not in menopause, but there are women who fit the age range that can. And I know that's like a very simple and like silly like example, but it's like I know Eileen, who she is a Gen X creator. I want to say she's 51 years old. I've used her so many times. She's so incredible. She's super talented. And she markets herself. I remember telling her, I was like, you need to literally wear it like a badge. The first time I met her, I did a meetup in LA back in March. And I remember her messaging being like, I'm definitely going to be the oldest one there, but I really want to meet you. And I just remember being like, girlfriend, you need to wear this like a badge that you're proud of because people are going to hire you more because it is so hard to find a creator like that. So Betty Ann, wear it like a badge, 50 plus years old, literally market yourself, add it in your portfolio, any social page you're on, because that is like the hardest person to find. You are like a unicorn that every brand needs a creator of that age range. That's how they see you.
So like everything that Kelly says, I'm just going to back up with stats. I can't tell you how many people actually like brands one are actually looking for 50 plus creators. It's really, really hard to find. Also great creators. So like that's just at that point you could charge whatever the hell you want. But outside of that, when I actually look at ads, the majority of people who purchase are women from 45 plus, and the majority of them want to go ahead and purchase from someone that looks like them or a bit more relatable. So normally more times than not, you get someone that's a bit older and you put them in these ads, those ads actually do really, really well. And it shows other people, hey, by the way, this is for you too. This isn't just for the little 20-year-olds that you see, because there's like a bunch of content creators, because everyone has a phone and can become a content creator. Like it's a bit of a different, you put yourself in a different category, because now it's like you are the face of the people that are purchasing the most, and you're also showing for the brand, you're showing, hey, this is our audience, and they want to showcase that. So it's like, even when I look at 310, the majority of the spend is coming from 45
Yep.
plus.
Yep.
Yeah, the majority is 45 to 54, and then 55 to 64. Those are the top two spending. So it's like, yeah, I mean, and this is from top of funnel, meaning to acquire new customers, which
Yep.
is really like, that's more powerful than anything else, any funnel outside of that. Like if you can bring in new accounts, great. And so, yeah, I would start I would start putting 50 plus everywhere, because like it's
Yes.
just, yeah, I would wear it as it's a badge, rightfully so, like it is, because
Yes. And when you're doing
like
cold outreach, put it in the headline of the email. 50+ year old UGC creator. Like literally, I'm telling you, there are brands that are trying to look high and low for you. So by you doing a cold outreach message, like basically any brand that you ever see, like someone with like basically you're like, oh, well, like what, how do I know if a brand is like targeting someone my age? Literally look at their website, because their website is going to reflect the variety of ages that they market to. And so for 310, our target customer was 45+ years old. I would even say the sweet spot was 55. The reason why I had my sister Carrie come in as a Gen Z creator is because one thing that we were trying to do, as I was the director of creative strategy there, was how come there are brands out there that can have a product like a collagen product that can have, who is it called? There's like a collagen brand, Vital Proteins. So like my example to 310 when I was doing creative strategy there was Vital Proteins exists. They did a brand deal partnership with Jennifer Aniston, who is, I believe, in her 60s now. But then they also did a partnership with a very famous TikToker who was 21 years old. And I basically brought it to them and was like, if they're able to target a Gen Z creator, I mean, a Gen Z customer, and also someone who is Gen X plus, we can also do it too. We just have to be strategic with it. And so all that goes to say is the reason why Carrie's ad works is because when I wrote the script, it was like, I'm not going to do what works for the, the Gen X person. I'm going to do what works for the Gen Z person, which is weight loss insinuated. They don't want to hear weight loss. It's going to be weight loss insinuated. It's going to be focused on more so the nutritional and health aspects, treating their body like a temple, not having enough time to make food or to get your supplements in, whatever it is. It was like, all this goes to say is it's like, think of like literally like protein brands that are like targeting someone who's trying to lose weight so they can be healthier for their grandchildren. That's literally like the winning headline for 310 is I wanted to lose weight because my doctor told me I was bordering type 2 diabetes and I just wanted to have enough energy and be there for my grandchildren. And so there are just, again, there's so many products out there. And 310 is just one of many examples.
I just saw the I don't know why I didn't scroll down, but I just saw it's like I'm hot all the time. It's just like, it's so funny, because it's just like the majority of the times, and even when the numbers are like this, I do tend to see that sometimes the younger creators with an older age demo, when it comes to ads, end up purchasing from the younger person. But I noticed that it actually helps when you have someone older to amplify that, because then they're like, oh, it's for everyone. Like this is great. So
Yep.
it's like there really is a balance. Like there always needs to be a balance. But again, like you are the demo, and it's a lot easier for people to say, hey, I want to go ahead and purchase from a company that, that obviously supports, or not supports, but, like they're advertising and marketing to me directly. So this is
Yep.
someone that I can absolutely relate to. Like that does help. Yeah, Kelly,
Absolutely.
when's your course coming out?
Claire, that's a great question. Okay, so Shane and I have talked about it, and we are going to commit to a December 1st launch. Now, I know that is 2 weeks away. However, we need it because this course has very quickly become an absolute monster of value. Like, I'm like not kidding. Like, at first we started out, we're like, okay, it's going to be like 10 modules. It's going to be video, yada, yada, yada. This thing is nearing 20 modules. It is
Oh,
insane the
wow.
amount of resources that are going to be in this. So I am so freaking excited. I wish I could release it in 2 parts. I talked to Shane about it and he was just like, no, we just need to get it over with. We need to just take a little bit more time. And so something that we're really going to be pushing for this course when we launch it is it's literally a last minute write-off. So for anyone that has literally made over like $1,000 this year in their business, you should definitely consider purchasing it before the new year so it can be a last minute write-off for 2023. So yes, we're very excited. Thank you for asking, Claire. And also just really quickly, if you haven't yet submitted your email, go to stan.store/UGC Social. I'm going to just post it here just so you guys can have it. And you can literally submit your email to be notified upon launch when we release the course. And this is the only way you will receive a unique discount code to use towards that purchase for that last minute business expense for 2023. So Jessica asked, thoughts on usage rates and negotiating that? I know it's a popular topic, popular, and also, it's like kind of divisive. Some people feel very strongly. Ultimately, it's your business. You get to run it however you please. So yes, it is a very popular topic. But if the ad is working, should the creator get paid for that? Absolutely. I know that you guys know, and I of course will let Lamees give her a chance to also share her perspective. For me, I feel like I've really learned a lot since UGC went viral. And like by viral, I mean like I've been doing UGC since 2014. And like I just treated it the same way as like I did video editing, where it was like I didn't talk about it because I was doing it on the side outside of my full-time career. And it was a great way to make money. And then all of a sudden, like, all these nuances start happening and all these evolutions. And it's like, oh, wow, like, maybe I wish I had put something in my contract with Beta Brand before I generated $45 million for them, where it was like, once it reaches a certain number of ad spend, I get X amount of percent. Like there are some things I wish I had changed. For me personally, I still offer perpetual ownership to my clients if they pay my rates for the advertisement, not so much the raw footage, but for the advertisement itself. But I have been kind of following the train of thought of like adding like a stipulation of once it reaches X amount of ad spend. And also before I hand it over to Lamees, we had Andrea on, who is legalpreneur, and she had also shared her thoughts on perpetuity and also saying like you should not have like things in your contracts that are like because if you offer perpetual ownership and in the contract it says you can't work with a competitor, then that essentially means you could never work with someone. But like, obviously, like, don't include that in the contract. Don't say like you won't work with competitors because then all of a sudden you like can't work with anyone ever. But anyways, I feel like it's definitely like fully loaded question. So Lamees, I'd love to hand it off to you for you to share your perspective, because I know also as a paid media manager, some of the frustrations and examples you've given, which I've also related to, is like, oh my God, okay, now we have to turn off this ad because it's been like 3 months and it was starting to show promise, but we're also not sure. Anyways, I would just love to know your thoughts because I know it's a fully loaded question.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to be hated for this, but I personally won't hire a content creator that has usage rights. I just won't do it. And I won't tell
Yep.
and when my clients ask me, I tell them not to, and to find
Yep.
another content creator. And even if that means that this person had 750, but they have usage rights of 6 months, I'd rather pay $1,000 for someone that just gives me flat out, because I'm probably not going to use the video for more than like past a year anyways. And if I do, it's probably because it's chopped up into like, so I've used maybe like a 5-10 second thing on there, at which point it's going to also phase out. So
Yep.
it's too much of a headache, to be quite honest with you.
Yep.
And it's an extra layer of something that the client has to think about now. And it's like,
Yes.
and it's something that like they don't think about it. And I can't tell you how many times like I've worked with the reason why this has become such a huge issue from like at least the other side of things is when brands started to do this, models would do this. So like, this is like the whole like modeling thing, right? So I have a lot of clients who would hire and do photo shoots in New York, and they would only have a year. So within a year, if their business, because a lot of more times than not, these were startups, so they'd pay all these fees, these modeling costs, whatever. In a year, by the time they realize that they need UGC and not beautifully polished images and they don't have the funds, or they have to take all of those videos down, so or that content down, and they have to start from scratch, and they have to like repay these and it's just like a whole shit show, because now the packaging has to change. They have to repay for that. They have to change out all of the ads. And again, if they're a brand new account, they don't have the money to go ahead and put everything back into a learning phase and restart from new. Like, you're going to actually hurt them more times than not. And because it actually hurts my accounts, I will not hire someone with usage rights. But that's a personal thing towards me.
To be fair,
that's also like,
me too. To be fair, me too.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I won't.
And it's like, I know that's gonna upset some people, but like, I think it's also, I'm gonna say funny for lack of better words, but there's like a trend where the creators who, like, there are UGC creators out there who give like full on usage of their ad, but it's the creators that come from the brand side that do that. And it's because they know the uphill battle that it creates for the brand. And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, for lack of better words, like, I literally can't hire a creator. And like, I remember there was someone on Twitter, I don't know who she was, but she was just like, lazy legal, lazy company. Like, you're just lazy if you can't deal with usage rights. And it's like, I'm sorry, sweetheart, why don't you come on the brand side and see how easy it is to keep track of every single person's usage rights? It's a liability.
Like, just honestly, it's give a rate that you're comfortable with knowing, but also understanding that, like, and I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just like, no one wants to run your video for that long anyways. Like, they get sick of it after a while. Like, no offense, but like, I get sick after seeing the same video for 3-4 months. I'm like, we need new videos. Like, even if it's working, like, we need new faces, like another one will work. So it's like, yeah, but I purposely will see, if I see it, that's actually like a really quick way for me to discard the content creator. Like, I'll be like, oh, put it in this pile. Like, nope, usage rights, I don't want to deal with it. Because then they do come back and they're like, well, you've been running this for a long time, or you've been making X amount of money. And it's like, but they paid for it. So it's like it's like you paying for a platform that you know is going to make you money, and then all of a sudden they keep charging you more because they know it's making you money. Like, okay, I'm on Kajabi, right? And we have like the courses. So like, if Kajabi charges you $100 a month for you to go ahead and build a course, and all of a sudden you're making an extra 10K a month on Kajabi, and then they're like, oh, well, you're making 10,000. I want more money from you. You know, like, it's the same thing. It's working around, like, you bought a service, you're selling a service. So stand by your service and say, hey, okay, great. Like, this is it. Understand that you're selling a service that they constantly need new creators. It's not something where you're the only person. So it's just so much easier. Just like I can go ahead and find someone to do any script read for $100. You know, it's like one of those things where, yeah, I won't. It's not that, oh, we're lazy. It's just, like, do you know how much stuff that goes into running a brand? And I'm not saying that content creation is not important, because it is absolutely important. But when we get like 50 people saying, hey, we'll do a video, and 30, 40 of them have no usage rights, I'm gonna go with the 40. I don't care about the 10.
Totally. Well, and also, like, because I know I've had people be like, oh, well, like, what about your sister's ad? Well, they're paying for whitelisting. That's what Carrie's getting paid every single month because of whitelisting. So she gets to charge $1,000 a month for every time that they're running her ad. And for that, it's like, literally, like, whitelisting, allow listing is literally like owning a property and renting it out to brands or to a client to use. And so that's how she's making her passive income. Now, when you create an ad that is winning for a client, not only do they want to source new creators to leverage that winning verbiage, but they also want to rehire you. So for example, Carrie and I just closed a deal with 310 where she's making $3,000 for 3 concepts. And the reason why they didn't bat an eye is because they know that that ad did really well. So she was able to negotiate more. Same conversation with Beta
228,000. Yeah.
Exactly. And also, so I'm going to give the Beta brand example, but I also, and like this is obviously this is like Jessica brought up usage rates, and now we're just like having a conversation. So Jessica, we will get back to this like initial conversation. What Lamees and I are saying is literally just a tangent based on like the actual usage rates. So this doesn't have to do with your question. I want to like communicate that now. I know, Jessica, but so like I know people will also say something like, oh, but like my ad made them so much money. Like you showed that number. But like you as that freelancer, you don't have the overhead of the brand. Like 310, they pay almost $1 million a month on ad spend. They have like 50 internal employees. They have like 100 overseas employees. They have to pay health benefits for every single US employee. They have cost of goods. They have to pay for shipping. They have all of the liability. And it's like one of those things where it's so easy to be like, oh, but like I made you all this money. It's like, okay, yes, but also when we like get past the revenue and we look at the profits, like we're walking away with such a small sum compared to the big number that you saw, that like it's not like a fair argument. And so like even for Beta brands, like one thing I do think, and like I would be curious, Lamees, to like hear your thoughts on this, is like I want to say we talked about this where it's like, okay, like this is my rate for this concept. Also, it's including the rate for you to use it in perpetual ownership. But like maybe if it gets to a certain amount of spend, that's when we can start kicking in whatever. That way, then it's not like, oh, you have to pay this upfront fee for 6 months and like hopefully it performs. It's like, no, like you paid $1,000. You own this concept outright. You can do whatever the heck you want with it. But once it reaches $100,000 in ad spend, I would like whatever percent. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like that's maybe where it makes sense, right?
I
Or
think
no?
that's going to be really okay. So I think it's going to be really hard. I think it's going to be really hard to justify that. And I only say this because you aren't going to have access. No one's ever going to give you access. Well, no, it's not that they're not ever going to give you access, but like it's hard to get access to someone's ad account. Yeah. So but I'm glad that you brought this up because I think like, you know, you can only send so much like via text. So like,
yeah,
you can't like, okay. So whenever it comes to pushing out, oh, I totally lost my train of thought. Like, okay, they're not going to give you access to their ad set. So whenever it comes to getting their personal data, it's gonna like you can't say, oh, they only spent 50,000. You have to actually trust the brand. Like they're not like it's hard for it's hard for me to get access just to audit someone's account because I give them my rates. And then they're just like, oh, okay. And so then they assume that if they're spending more or less, my rates are going to change or something like that. But they see in my contract that I put, hey, here's my retainer, but I also do a percentage of ad spend. But I do a percentage of ad spend because I can see that information. Now, I always tell people if you're going to do something, if they're going to continue to run like the ads, you can try to get into like a really good relationship with them and say, I want to have like view account access. This would probably want to be one of those things too, where like, again, just being fair or just being upfront. If I was a content creator, I probably want to ask for it. If I was a brand, I wouldn't hire you for it because you're not seeing my ad account. But see, having view access of the ad account would be the only way that someone can go ahead and say that. Now, I think that if anything, if the ad is doing good, that's when you guys need to really hit them for upsell, like to whitelist. That is where you do it. Because that's where you can go ahead and literally get money in your sleep and then go ahead and charge them per concept. So keep giving them videos and keep milking them and knowing that they can go ahead and get additional creatives or whatever the case is. But it's going to be really, really hard for you to say, hey, here's a percentage of ad spend or whatever that is.
That's true. The good thing is like when you're creating winning creatives, like that's when you can also negotiate. That's when you have like the power at least, because like, even if they're not saying like, you know, like, oh, like you're moving mountains or like making a huge deal, because obviously on the brand side too, they want to be like smart. Cause if they say that you made them like crazy amounts of money, then that's when like negotiating can kind of go crazy. But like, even for Beta brand, like I literally got an $80,000 less than part-time contract with them after the year that all of my ads were winners. And it was because I created those winners. So like in my mind, even though I still generated them so much money, I still felt like I was so fairly compensated. Like I don't know anyone, like obviously there are people out there, but there are very few people out there that can say that they made over $100,000 working only 10 to 15 hours a week and taking off almost 2 months. Like honestly, to this day, I still feel fairly compensated. And guess what? Even though those ads were still generating so much goddamn money for this brand, they were acquired and they literally archived the majority of those winning ads because they were no longer on brand. They still have all the products, they have all the SKUs. They just have a new art director who has a new vision, and now they just want to scrap it all. So like when people say, "Oh, I'm just afraid it's gonna just run till the day I die." First of all, you're gonna be lucky if that brand is still alive 3 years from now, because I feel like anyone can start a business. And just like Rootly, we started it and we closed it within a year because we were like, damn, cold chain delivery sucks. We don't want to be a part of this. But it's just like, they churn, things change, things go out of style. There are organic social nuances. There's so many changes. So I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's such an interesting conversation. And I really like Jessica's follow-up questions because this is all very much kind of like a lot, right? Like she said, like to like digest as a creator. How about implied usage? If it's running for a long time in a particular niche, does that prevent you from working with similar brands? And what about content with children and usage rights? Now that's a damn good question because I find that as like very much a gray area. Also, I guess I'm wondering what implied usage means in the sense of like a particular niche. These are great questions.
There's a black owned brand that's a hair straightening, like this, like it's not like a perm, but it's like whatever, I think, or maybe a relax. I don't remember. Remember I used to get it done though. Anyways, they're like these old packages that you'd see at like Target or Sally's beauty supply store. And they're still using like the same exact package. And recently they had on TikTok, they were like, where are these girls now? And they're still using the same packaging. And of course they were children, and these are like, they're adults, they're in their 20s, 30s. And so it's like, yeah, you have this implied usage, right? But you still go to Sally's beauty supply, you still get the image or get the product with their faces on it. They've never changed it. A lot of places aren't going to, again, I understand like where you guys are coming from. Like when it comes to kids and stuff, working with kids is actually a whole different ballgame. So if it's UGC and it's being sent home, and it's the same type of thing, then honestly, I think something is going to come cracking down on the parents a bit sooner, especially after this whole Ruby Frank incident. But that, like with kids being, in it, like that's going to be a whole separate law. When it comes to usage rights, though, same thing. And I'm not trying to be mean, but like, I don't care because I'm not going to run your kid's ad for more than a year anyways. And if I do, and it's like 5 seconds because I just needed one specific clip, then okay. But it's that same type of thing where it's like, you are offering a service, you charge a service. And so every company is hiring you because they're hoping that your content can grow them revenue. But if that means that I'm going to hire you and now you're going to say, oh, well, I took it, like, or I did the video, like I created it, that's why, you're getting all of this, this funds. They probably would have gotten it by hiring another creator anyways, right? It's these different things where let's go ahead and just be realistic about the whole entire situation. But any usage rights, I personally won't hire, and I won't let my clients hire them either. And all of like my other colleagues that do this, they don't care because again, it's a bit more of a nuance. Like we're offering a service. It's not fair. Like if I start a business and then if you guys all have like UGC businesses, right? And you guys hire an assistant, now you can take on more work, right? But you paid the assistant to do the work that you've asked, you've built everything. Now the assistant's like, well, I want to be your man. No, I did this. The reason why you got this is because you hired me. I want more money.
I deserve a cut.
Yeah, I deserve a cut. Now you can go ahead and decide, well, let me just go ahead and up your raise, but you're not getting a percentage of what I bring in, right?
Yeah.
Like, so same thing with the clients. It's like someone else said that someone said that they did free work. The client gave them a raise. Now they're continuing to ask them. Well, the client is, so playing devil's advocate, and I would hate if someone did this shit to me, but like, if they're like, well, I just paid you more money. Like, What do you mean? I'm giving you so much money a month. You're going to miss out on all of this money because I gave, no, you're providing a service, right? You would feel some type of way as a content creator. So imagine what the brand's doing, and the brand's really going to look at you and just like, ugh. And that becomes like this shitty internal conversation where they don't want to hire you because it's just like you're attributing their success to your specific video. And that's not the case. They've done so much to get there, and now they need faces. So though your video absolutely has helped drive that success, it's not just your video that would help. It would be thousands of other people's videos, and they're not going to add some usage rights. They're not going to say, well, I'm no. Again, it's a service that you're offering. Like, I can't take on a client and say, well, I just brought you from X amount to X amount. I want percentage of your revenue. I could do that, and some media buyers do that. I can tell you right now, they're not getting hired. So
Yeah.
it depends, but I'm actively doing work to go ahead and make the change. A one-time service, you just set it up. Like, if someone, and people have hired me to just set up their accounts, I'm not going to just set up their accounts, realize that the campaign I created for them 6 months ago is still running and generating them 5-10 times the amount of money that they spend on it. No, I set it up already. That was a service that they paid me for it. I know it's probably going to continue. I've literally seen it happen where I've done all of this work, built out a beautiful ad account, and then they send it to someone else. I can't go back and say, well, I created it. If you're going to continue to run my strategy, I want a percentage. Like, that's no, because you're having everyone, like, with the one thing that you've done, and again, not even trying to diminish and say that it's nothing, but the one item that you've done, now you're almost diminishing everyone else in that organization's work. They're all offering a service too. So
Yeah. It's definitely, it's such like a long conversation, and it's like, yeah, like, and don't get me wrong, like, I understand that there are like other nuances where it's like making sure that the company isn't going to have the right to maybe like use your like a deep fake of you eventually when like AI is more normalized to have you talking like,
oh
sure, like
yeah, no.
that's wrong, like that shouldn't be allowed. But like, yeah, the ad itself, I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things where it's such a big conversation, and ultimately like everyone is entitled to run their business however they want. It's just that the only thing that really isn't shared as much is the perspective from the brand side, which is why Lamees and I get really excited to talk about it, just because, I mean, it is unfortunate, but like, I literally don't hire creators that don't offer perpetual ownership. And, you know, that will obviously upset some people, but it's like, it makes everyone's job for my clients so much easier. And like, respectfully, like, I can't even think of an ad that I hired someone for outside of Carrie that their ad is still running for any of the creators I've sourced for in the last 2 years. Like, literally, like, I don't even know. I truly don't even know if there might be one client who's been running an ad of mine for over a year recently. And it's just like, I'm still getting $3,600 a month of opportunities from this client. So do I feel like I'm cheated? No. I did a script read. They have the raw footage and the B-roll, whatever. And it's been a very fruitful relationship for the two of us. So yeah, it's definitely like a huge conversation. I want to pivot it though, because Mark had asked a good question, which was, what has your experience been with vanity metrics when dealing with companies? Have you had any companies go with someone else based on views and followers instead of going with you? Ooh, that's a good question, because I feel like a lot of people, when they're sourcing creators, will think, oh, well, you know, this creator has 50,000 followers, they must be really good, when really it's like, okay, but like, do they know DR best practices? Like, do they know how to make something that feels native to the platform that is also leveraging best practices, compared to someone who doesn't have any social following, but is a tried and true, like, operating UGC creator who understands creative strategy?
Okay. It's like, oh my God. All right. So like, this is insane. Whenever they go back, so vanity metrics, I totally get, like, yes, it looks pretty. If I am going to go ahead and hire someone to post organically, and then I want to go ahead and get their reach, then I'm going to go ahead and go towards those vanity metrics, right? Great, cool, done. Now, I have said, and my favorite example, content creators, Influencers are two very, very different people, two very, very different jobs. Content creators create content that are focused on driving revenue and traffic to the brand. That is the main thing. Influencers create and post pretty pictures organically, and it's specifically selling to their followers, which is why they can do those affiliate links. I have had an account where I had someone, it was a fitness brand, and Kelly, you've heard this several times, but we had there's a fitness brand, and they were like, let's get an influencer. They were like resistant bands, right? So they had like resistant bands. There was like maybe like less than $40. This is back in the day when like AOV needed to be like around like 30, $40 anyways. She had 1 million followers, like 1.3 million followers, something like that. We ran ads, got 0 purchases out of that. We finally got one like a couple weeks later. Yeah, but like it was nothing. Now, this was like a $40 product. Fast forward, I had another account where they hired a micro influencer, 20,000 followers. This was an air filter account, and the air filter averages about $450. Within the first week, we sold over 200 units of that. She only has 20,000 followers. So it really just depends on the person, right? Because then like I can run those ads and from like top of funnel acquisition, people who have never seen her or heard of her. So it's not even hitting her specific audience, but they're purchasing. They're like, wow, this video is really good. They're purchasing. So more times than not, like I don't really care what their Instagram profile looks like. I only care if I decide I want to whitelist. Because then at that point I'm like, oh, all right, great. But if we're running paid ads, more times than not, like these great content creators, like this fitness person who had 1 million followers, I mean, you look and there was a bunch of engagements, but like the majority of people who were following her were men. They were double tapping because her butt was everywhere. And she's in tight outfits, and that's it. So it's just like, yeah, no. And then also a lot of people pay for their followers, and we can tell like if you pay for your followers. So it's just like, that's definitely not going to do you well. But do you really care? Like if you had 1 million followers and I said, all right, you're making no money with 1 million followers, but I'm going to take 250,000 followers, and now I'm going to make it so that you generate $50,000 a month. You're going to be like, actually, yeah, I'll give up 250,000 followers to generate money because I have 1 million. That's what it is. A lot of the people who have all these big followings, like they're not followers that will convert. That's the thing. They're not followers that will convert at all. They don't actually care. You either do something funny, you do something that's like cool, whatever, something that they can double tap and like live vicariously through you, whatever BS that is, right? So great, cool, done. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that what you're doing is actually converting. So whatever vanity metrics they're giving, they're all back with the ROAS and what your engagement rate is and what your conversion rate is, because that's what they really care about, and that's what's going to set you apart. Because if someone says I have 50,000 followers, okay, well, what's your ROAS? I don't, we don't really do paid ads. So then like you do a paid ad and it's like 0.5, you're like, oh, okay, 1 million followers is 0.5, and that's what happened. But then you have like 5,000 followers, 2,000 followers. I'm not even running whitelisting. I'm just using your video, and I've immediately generated $228,000. It's just, it depends.
Exactly. Well said. So Grace asked, at what point are KPIs good enough to create a case study? I've had an ad running for 11 months and the brand said it's doing well, but the KPIs don't sound great to me. So, I mean, the fact that it's been running for 11 months, I feel like is an accomplishment in and of itself. I'm also of like the practice that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So I'm sure there's a way that we can phrase this advertisement as a case study for your portfolio. I'd definitely be curious of what those KPIs are. But ultimately, like, even if it's, maybe not the best ROAS compared to the industry, maybe there's a way to also further justify why that initial ROAS is lower. Is it like Lamees had explained about 310, where initially it is less in the beginning, but it's because, the upsell is more, which then, goes from top of funnel onward. So I think, you know, even when I like was making my case studies, which I need to update them because it's been a minute since I have, but like when I look back at them, it's like, you know, like Beta Brand was pretty obvious, right? Like the top 18 out of 20 ads for 2021 received 85% of the ad spend for that year. That's very notable. But like even for Metabolic Living, when I worked with them as just a freelancer before they brought me on full time, they like they basically like I basically copied and pasted what my point of contact had shared with me. I'm gonna actually show my screen really quickly just so you guys can see what I'm reading. But so you can see my screen, right? So like here I just had copied and pasted what my point of contact had shared, which was like, as far as how your UGC is doing, we are generally able to break 125% ROAS on launch, and they are lasting about 3 weeks ish in a profitable place. As we scaled spend efficiency has gone down overall 90 to 96% ROAS, which is expected. However, it is performing better than our average content creator, hence asking for more content. So it's like, and for them, like it was a weird case of like to literally hit like a 0.5 ROAS was amazing. So it's like it's all relative, right? Or like for Merit Beauty, it was like if I remember correctly, the like actual KPIs didn't sound all that great, but it was literally the second performing ad on Black Friday, Cyber Monday for TikTok. So I literally just highlighted that. And then for 310, like I featured Carrie's ad that I wrote the script for. So all that goes to say, I think it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And ultimately, I feel like there is a creative way for you to really just like market yourself the same way you would your clients, where you can take something that maybe initially sounds fairly ordinary and like phrasing it in a way showcasing some of the value that can like really be heightened, right? Like if there's an ad that like it had the highest view through rate on the account, that's incredible. You should definitely highlight that because, you know, like I forget what the average is. It's like, I'm pretty sure the average view through time is like 3 to 4 seconds now. Like I forget who it was. It might have been Shane who had a call with Facebook and they said that. I could be wrong. Anyways, it's like what you should ask actually, Grace, to get this information is you could say, how is this ad performing relative to the rest of the ad account? And so that's actually how I got really notable KPIs from 310 specifically. So they had told me at the time that it was the cheapest CPCs in the entire account, along with being the top performer for the new customer ROAS with a 1.92% click-through rate, which is the highest on the account. So it was like, I wouldn't have known that information if I didn't say, how is this? So I ask, how is this ad doing? They give me feedback. And then I say, how is it performing relative to the rest of the account? And that's where you can get a lot of information.
So it depends too on what the okay, cool. So it depends too on what the industry is and then what their benchmark is too. So 1.3% ROAS. I would say, oh, I'm getting a 1. I don't honestly, I'd probably just round up and be like, I get about a 1.5% ROAS top of funnel for a new account launching new ads under, you know, like 10K. And at that point, it's just like, wait, really? Because 1.5 is actually pretty good, especially when you say the benchmark for their industry is 1.8. So you being like right there for a new brand who's entering into the marketplace, that's actually really, really good. So you could bring it in like that. I mean, depends on where you pull it. I mean, the average rate, the average conversion rate or ROAS across like the 14 main industries, 1.7. So if you're hitting a 1.3, yeah, anything above that, like of course 5x is great, but that's also when the company has been running for a long time. So normally accounts are going to see like somewhere in that 1-2, unless they have like really good handle on like creatives, a really good budget, and they have a really strong media buyer.
Yep. And also like outside of it, obviously being relative to the industry, when I went into 310, it was post iOS 14. And they were like, we used to get a consistent like 1.5x ROAS, but now we can't even get to 0.5. When I came in, my goal was to literally get them to a 1x. And so it's like now they are. But like if I didn't share that context, if I just said like 1x at 310, people would be like, why? Like, why are you sharing this? But it's like, no, the context behind it is that post iOS 14, their account went to basically shit. And they were like, help us restabilize the account with your creative strategy. And what did I do? I took it back upwards to a consistent 1 point something X across the board, which is why, hearing that Carrie's ad is doing 1 point something, that's amazing. Because guess what? When I went into 310, our ads were like 0.5. Our benchmark at the time was a 0.8 because that's how low we were. And that was the goal. Going into metabolic, same thing. Even like one of the clients that I'm an advisor level creative strategy consultant for, literally our benchmark right now, it's been since raised because we have been growing over time. It's now at a 0.85. I mean, not 0.8. Yeah, 0.85. So it's not even at a 1x. And for health and wellness, I don't know what the industry standard is, but I can tell you right now, it's not under a 1x. But it's because the account is, they're having their own personal struggles. And so they brought me in to restabilize the account. So I think you can also like really highlight wins, even if they're below industry standard, if there's context that you can share.
Oh, there's so many ways of doing it, but like that's like the paid media way anyways. I mean, more times than not, like even working with an agency, they were like, hey, every week, even if the account's doing shitty, like they don't have money to get creators or whatever, you have to still make them sound somewhat profitable. So like I would sit there through data, and I mean, like, and I'm a data nerd, so I'll literally sit there and I can like pull out a bunch of shit and be like, oh my God, this is great. And share those metrics. And so of course, like I've been in this industry for years. It really just kind of depends on where they're at. And then also like their LTV. Is the ROAS included? Like, is that just top of funnel? Is that both of it? Even if it's both, and it's probably combined, because I highly doubt that they would have separated that out and told you just willingly. So if that is it, then it's just like, great, what's their LTV? What's their product? How much does their product cost? Do people end up going back and purchasing again? Right. And so at that point, it's like 1.3. Okay, but we all know that through retargeting, you're going to go ahead and bring those people back in again. If they've purchased once, they're probably going to purchase again from you. So it's not just a 1.3. And if you've only been running that ad for a month or so, you're going to need a bit more time to pull that in. But
yeah. Oh, yeah. And also like going back to the level of spend, communicating the spend, because 1.3 at like $2 million in spend, I would say is impressive. But if it was like 1.3 at like 100 spend, it's like, okay, well, sure. Like, of course you got one purchase, like you said. So yeah, I feel like it's less about like the actual number and like more about the storytelling, right? Like, it's like, what is the narrative behind this number and how did you influence it in a positive way? Because if you came in and they were like, damn, Grace, we really hope you can help us get higher than a 0.67 and you get a 1.3 at scale, that's incredible. So it's like the story behind it. It's the same way that you would market your clients, right? You got to market yourself. And so really being able to story sell, I feel like is a really great way to showcase those case studies.
I always say, and I explain this to my clients, this is like part of my pitch. I say this with them. And it's totally 1,000% true. I tell them the data tells a story, and my job is to explain that and then to figure out where we go from there. But the data tells a story. And I mean, I can sit down for hours and look at it and be like, okay, this is what's going on. I just like created a dashboard. I like nerded out. Like I started this on like a Thursday, like at 3:00. Next thing I know, I like blink and it's 6:00 in the morning. Like that's how focused I was on just creating this dashboard. And so like now it's just like we can see the numbers, we can see the metrics, we can see from top of funnel, bottom of funnel, middle of funnel, we can see where everything is going. But like it's data. And like I needed to give it to them in a way that gives them a bit more context. Like, but you're right, it's all about storytelling, because I can take a 1.3% ROAS and make that sound so great, even though you think it's super low. But I'm like, well, actually, even though it's a 1.3, we were able to spend over $40,000. We were able to scale it. Plus LTV is, people end up buying from them at least 4 times at, an AOV of $150. So now you're like each time. So now it's like, it moves from like that one time of it being $150 to it being like the $450 one time at a CPA of, $30, $40, and you're just like, wait, hold on, because now your ROAS is a lot more than just that 1.3x. So it's about storytelling.
Yeah, definitely. Also, I'm pretty sure it's our longest training we've ever done. And as much as I'd love to stay and chat, I know that we have other things to do this Sunday, including my bladder is going to explode because of all the liquids I've been drinking. So before we close, I do want to promote, so Lamees, so can you talk about your website real quick? And then also I do have a direct link to what is your marketing boot camp that I'm going to share in the chat as well. But if you could just allude a little bit to that, because I know you've been working on it. And I, for one, am super excited for this boot camp.
Yeah, so I have a content creator boot camp that's coming out. I actually need to put a date on here. I realized I did not do it, which should be coming out like right after Black Friday. And then I'm also launching another boot camp after on running, like how people can run Facebook ads. Aside from that, I am also pulling in a mentorship program. So anyone who has any type of questions at that point can like go ahead and pull me into whether it's like their conference calls with their clients to pull these numbers. Now you actually have like the actual like marketing expert behind you that can now help you facilitate this. So yeah, if you go through and you guys sign up and you add in your email, you will start getting all of those emails when everything starts to come out, and all of the dates and everything for the content creator bootcamp and the Facebook bootcamp and all of that good stuff. So
yeah. Yay, that's so exciting. And then if you guys aren't already following Lamees on TikTok, be sure to do so. I'm pretty sure it's just Lamees, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, so the handle is just Lamees. And then outside of that, obviously you guys know about the creative strategy course that we're going to be coming out with. Again, we are going to put in a hard launch date of December 1st, which I'm super excited about. Again, it's going to be it's going to be great for a last minute business expense. And of course, it's going to help you be able to scale your business, because you can only make so much money doing UGC. And literally the first 4 contracts that I secured working for myself since leaving my career is literally over $250,000 in contracts. So if you want this to be you in the near future, go to standoutstore.com/UGC Social and submit your email to be notified upon launch, and also receive a unique discount code that will only be shared to anyone who submits their email. Nice. Amazing. Well, this was super great. Thank you so much, Lamees, for joining. As always, you were super helpful, and I know everyone in the community really appreciates you. If you guys have any follow-up questions, send them in the Discord. If you're not already there, go to ugcsocial.community and you can join this free Discord community. Use it as a resource. And yeah, I'd be happy to answer any of your follow-up questions there. And until next Saturday at 10 a.m. PST, we can stay in communication over Discord. All right, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.